Joel Gould is from AAP, based in Brisbane. And what a crackerjacker of a match there tonight. The local derby, the new boys, the Dolphins, up against the Broncos. We've got a couple of league things to talk about. But first and foremost, welcome to the show, mate.
Oh, thanks very much for having me. It's a pleasure.
Yeah, I want to touch on the Warriors in a second as well. But, I mean, we've got to start with that matchup last night, Eels versus Panthers. And the Eels 0-3. They win it in Golden Point extra time after Nathan drop kicks or field goals, a two-pointer to tie it up. How desperately important was that win for the Eels season?
Oh, it was vital for them. To win, they'd lost their first three games, and I think the Cowboys lost their first three in 2015, and funnily enough, Jonathan Thurston kicked a Golden Point field goal in the fourth game against the Melbourne Storm, and they went on to win the comp. So, I mean, I'm not saying the Parramatta Eels will go on and win the comp because Mitchell Moses did that, but it just shows you've got to get your season started somewhere. And I think there's only one team in the history of rugby league that's lost four and gone on to win the comp. I think that might have been Newtown way back, which doesn't even exist anymore. It's one of those wins that if they hadn't won, their season, you could just about say would have been over.
Yeah, you got that feeling, didn't you? Only because, not because they're not playing well, because every loss had been so goddamn close, but just the fact that, when you look at the amount of games left and work out, heck, they would have had to win 13 out of 20 or something crazy like that. I mean, just the statistical chances don't look good in your favour if you're actually battling that.
Exactly. And look, I think, the fact is that they've got a pretty difficult draw. So, to lose their first four, it would have just put them so far behind the eight ball. I think this is going to be a really close top eight this year, and I just don't think you can lose 4 or 5 games in a row and have an impact on. I mean, it almost means if you're going to go on a really bad losing run at the start of the season, you can't have any more failings during the year. So you're under so much pressure, a few injuries, and you're gone.
Joel Gould is with us.
Great win.
Yeah, great win.
And Mitchell Moses, great for him too, under so much pressure. Previously, he's committed to the Eels, and that's just the sort of thing that can kickstart his season as well.
Joel Gould from AAP out of Brisbane. Well, what a crackerjack of a local derby you got there tonight. Made even better, of course, by both teams being 3-0 right at the start. No Kafusi is huge. It's officially a home game for the Dolphins, even though it's at Suncorp and the Broncos' home stadium. But what is this, just buzzing the whole of Brisbane, is it?
Oh, it is. Rugby league in this city is king, and this game, and the fact that Wayne Bennett is back in the Suncorp dressing rooms, he's in the home dressing room coaching against the Brisbane Broncos. He did his press conference on Thursday, and we had a good chat to him. He was quite talkative, actually. There were some things he didn't want to talk about, but he was very happy to talk about what this game means to him personally and for the game itself. And it was quite fascinating listening to him talk about it. I actually asked him, I said, Wayne, in your wildest dreams, did you ever imagine that you would be back here less than 5 years after you were sacked, coaching the Dolphins against the Broncos? And he said, no. But then he said, I don't dream much. It's pretty funny, the way he said it.
That's great.
He actually got quite, what would you say, nostalgic about Lang Park, the old Lang Park, when he was a police cadet. He used to peer down on the ground from a terrace not far away from what is now Suncorp, and he used to wish and hope that one day he'd be able to play and coach or play initially on that field. And it's quite interesting listening to him talk about that and how important this match was for the game, because he has likened the derby to a Manchester United versus Man City sort of rivalry that could develop over time. So Wayne was in great form talking about this match. Didn't want to talk too much about Kafusi and the suspension that he received, because I think his philosophy for this game very much is the next man up. We've faced difficulties in our first 3 rounds, and we're going to have to face them again against a red hot, like you said, Broncos team. Bit of argy-bargy too, away from the field. The Broncos have released a special jersey to wear, a City jersey. They're claiming that Brisbane is their town, under the Dolphins say we're a Brisbane team as well. The Broncos say, no, you're not. So there's all that sort of banter behind the scenes The Caxton Street entertainment precinct's going to go ballistic.
Go on.
So it's going to be a fascinating day leading into the game, and then, of course, the game itself should be an absolute cracker. Sold out. Probably the biggest club crowd ever seen in Brisbane.
Wow.
At a rugby league game at Lane Park.
I mean, the NRL just must be, I mean, the administration just must be sitting there so self-satisfied at the moment. You know, they added another team. No one expected them to be 3-0. I mean, they're playing great code for a start, but also then the timing of this game is just absolutely perfect. To kick off, you know, I mean, you had a crackerjacker to kick off, you know, the round, obviously, but for this timing right now, I mean, this is one time that I don't know whether they planned this or whether this was in their wildest dreams, but the admin have got it exactly right.
Oh, they have, and I think the fact that they brought in a team and Wayne Bennett was the coach of it, I think that is the crucial ingredient to the success of this. And Peter V'landys has spoken about how he just wanted Bennett to be the man that was going to coach this team. I think Wayne would have coached any of the new expansion franchises that put their names up, to be honest. I know he was right in the mix. If the Brisbane Jets had got their franchise, he would have coached them. So, like, really, Bennett, I think, is the key, not just because he's such a great coach, but because of what he brings to the table sponsorship-wise. Like, he attracts support, and this team, the Dolphins, had already had great support in the background anyway. They had a really good economic base, but having Bennett there has added to that, and of course, being the former Broncos coach, it just, like you said, the admin has got it right, the NRL's got it right, but I don't think you could go wrong having Wayne Bennett as a coach of a new Brisbane franchise. Like, you really couldn't script it, really. It is a Hollywood-style script that's been written, and the NRL's just got on the back of it, really.
Joel Gould from AAP with us. Well, fantastic. Thank you so much for giving us so much time. Let's just finish on the Warriors, mate, because obviously it is our year. I mean, we say that every year, and you know it is our year this year, Joel. And after winning up at North Q in Townsville in the heat and holding them to a scoreless second half and no points after, you know, for the last 67 minutes, hopes are really high here. But this time based on a touch of reality, and that Andrew Webster seems to have brought an enormous change, an immediate change to the club.
Oh, 100%. I mean, it's not just a mirage, the fact that the Warriors have done so well early on in the season. I mean, I was just totally taken with their defensive performance. I thought that was outstanding. They were quite brutal. They defend for each other. The great Warriors teams I think of were very strong defensively, and they were obviously great in attack, and they had a lot of punch through the middle and razzle and dazzle in the backs, but they also defended for each other. And this is what this team's doing. And I think Webster's brought that. I imagine if you're a Warriors supporter and watching them, you can just see how they're playing for each other. And I think that's the thing that stands out to me. Look, I really like Tamari Martin and Sean Johnson together as a halves pairing. I think that's going to be a real winner for the Warriors. Tamari was fantastic for the Broncos last year. I think he had an injury there, and I look at the back end of the season, the Broncos weren't going so well, but when they did play well, he was a big part of it. I just think he's the exact right man to partner Sean, who's obviously had a really good start to the season as well. So I think that's important. Webster seems to have got there's some joy back into Sean Johnson in the way he plays the game. He looks like he's enjoying himself. I think that's important, and it's really, even the bench has been so good, hasn't it? Jazz Tavanga and those guys. And I like the look of the bench with Dylan Walker, Bailey Sirinen, Jazz Tavanga, those sort of guys. I think the Warriors bench looks better. So look, there's a lot to like. It's going to be a cracking game this weekend. I think that's going to be a real test for the Warriors on Sunday against the Bulldogs, who are also a much improved side. But if I'm a Warriors fan, I'm very excited about watching my team.